Yields back. Now recognize gentlelady from Colorado, Ms. DeGette, for her 5
Thank you
minutes.
so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's great seeing you, and thank you for coming over today. I've been working on these ORR issues for a long time, as you know, and frankly, your agency and the Biden administration in general inherited a terrible immigration crisis, and particularly kids that came across the border under the Trump policies of separation of families. Really are, I want to talk about that in a minute with you, but they've been really devastating, and your agency has been forced to sort of try to put it all back together on a real-time basis. So I just want to ask a couple questions. The first thing that happens, an unaccompanied minor comes across the border, and immediately they're placed in ORR's care. After they come, within 72 hours, I think, right?
They actually go into care at CBP.
Right.
And then they process them, and
then they put them into your care.
and they are required to try to do that within 72 hours.
That's correct. So then the next thing that happens is the agency attempts to find relatives or other people in which to put the kids' custody. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that happens with most of these kids. Is that correct?
All of the kids. We make
No,
an
I mean,
effort.
you don't find relatives of all of the kids.
The vast majority we do, but not all.
That's correct. And so then you have a process. If you and most of the kids are placed quickly, but not all of them, right?
That's correct.
And so the ones that are this is where, so for the small percentage where you don't immediately find somebody, this is where you take them into custody and you put them in these certified facilities, and then you try to find an appropriate place to put these kids. Is that right?
That's correct. And over, we're looking for sponsors.
Right. So then these kids are placed, and then there are these voluntary follow-up calls that are made to these families. Is that right?
That's correct.
But under law, the families aren't required to respond to that, are they?
Unfortunately, that's correct.
Right. So when you're looking for these placements, this is where you were telling my colleagues, you do the background checks, you check out the homes, you do the home inspections where necessary. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, and by the way, you don't have the ability legally to take these kids back into custody if there's some kind of a problem. Is that right?
That is correct.
So all of this process it's costly, and it takes a lot of money, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So if we were to cut ORR, so we're all concerned about these kids, and I do believe my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, they're all parents too. We do care about these kids, but you can't do something with nothing. So if you cut the budget of ORR by 60%, I would say it'd be kind of hard to do all of those procedures that you just delineated for me. Would that be right?
Not just hard, impossible.
Right. You couldn't do the background checks. You couldn't run your certified centers. You couldn't do the home inspections. You couldn't do any of that for anybody, right?
It'd be near impossible to do it.
So you don't have to answer this, but it seems to me if everybody was so concerned about these children, they would increase your budget so you could do a more thorough investigation, so you could have better care for these kids, and so that you could really serve them right.
Children are children. We owe them care.
Right. Okay. I just want to get a quick report. I'm running out of time, but we still, according in May of this year, we still had 868 kids from the previous Trump administration separation of families that we had not found their loved ones. They hadn't been reunified. And it's getting harder and harder as time goes by because many of those parents have gone back to their home countries. Do you have a status report for me on what's going on with that?
Congressman, we can follow up with you. Most of that activity is handled by the Department of Homeland Security, but we work with them when they are children, minor children.
Okay, if you can get back to me, that would be great. I kind of want to know how many of those 868 kids we have found their families, and then what we're continuing to do about the rest of them. We had a lot, I was the chair of this subcommittee then, and we had a lot of hearings on it. It was just heartbreaking to see what the Trump administration did to those families. Thank you, and I yield back.